Imagine yourself suspended in midair, frozen to the bone, unable to move as icy water pours down on you relentlessly. What you are about to discover today will chill you to the bone. 3 terrifying tales of underground expeditions that turned into absolute nightmares. Our first story takes us back to March 1997, when 2 friends with a passion for caving, Mark and Victor, decided to tackle one of the most formidable caves in Tennessee. This cave was known for its vertiginous 48-meter entrance shaft. Victor, 24, had only explored 4 caves before, but his enthusiasm made up for his lack of experience. That morning, the leaden sky was pouring down rain. As they approached the entrance, they heard a threatening rumble. A waterfall was pouring into the depths of the shaft. Faced with this spectacle, they should have turned back. Their waterproof suits had been left in the car, a fatal oversight. Worse still, Victor had forgotten his helmet. But adrenaline got the better of them, and they set up their ropes directly in the path of the waterfall. Mark went down first, feeling the icy water piercing his clothes. Victor followed him, but as soon as he touched the bottom, his body began to shake violently. After only 30 minutes, it was clear that he couldn't hold on. "Mark, I can't do it anymore," Victor moaned, his teeth chattering. "I have to get out now." In his haste, Victor made a fatal mistake. He assembled his ascension system too quickly. His improvised harness was a dangerous assembly of 6 non-locking carabiners. Halfway up, under the force of the waterfall, one of the carabiners gave way. Victor found himself suspended only by his lanyard, preventing him from reaching his ascender. Trapped, he screamed for Mark, but his cries were lost in the roar of the waterfall. Without hesitation, Mark rushed to his rescue. The climb was torturous. Every hold was a battle against the freezing water. When he reached Victor, the scene was horrific. His friend was hanging limply, conscious but paralyzed by hypothermia. Mark knew the rescue technique, but performing it in these conditions was impossible. His frozen fingers refused to obey him. After several desperate attempts, he tried to pull himself up while pulling Victor, but the weight was insurmountable. The 2 men found themselves trapped. In a final burst of energy, Mark managed to swing himself toward a ledge, cut the rope, and collapsed. The cold got the better of him. When he regained consciousness hours later, Victor was still there, motionless. Mark had to accept the unacceptable and climb back up alone. Our second story takes us to the depths of Mexico, where 9 experienced divers were preparing to explore Sac-Acton, an underwater labyrinth stretching over 368 kilometers. In December 2004, these divers split into 2 teams to explore the Kalimba cenote. Team A was to set the markers, while Team B simply followed them. It was a simple plan for these experts. Team A completed its mission without a hitch, placing yellow markers at each intersection. But Team B made a fatal mistake. At the second intersection, instead of turning right, they turned left. This mistake led them into the deepest recesses of the system. For 25 minutes, they swam without realizing that they were sinking into a maze of 426 meters of unknown tunnel. When they realized their mistake, panic set in. The water became murky, reducing visibility to 0. It was impossible to tell up from down. The labyrinth seemed to be swallowing them alive. Team A had resurfaced, removing the markers, unaware of the drama unfolding below. Team B split into 2 pairs. When the first pair reached the fatal intersection, they discovered to their horror that there were no markers left. Air consumption skyrocketed as panic set in. One of the divers saw his tank empty, forcing his partner to share his mouthpiece in a desperate dance. On the surface, Team A realized what had happened. They dove back down with backup tanks. 76 meters below the surface, they found the first pair, exhausted but alive. But when they found the other 2, it was too late. 2 lifeless figures floated near the rock ceiling. Their gauges read 0. They had run out of air in this watery tomb. Our last story involved 19 lives hanging on the fate of 1 man. On a freezing morning in January 1970, 31 adventurers set out for Knox Cave, renowned for its formidable passage, the Cannon. The Cannon was a tunnel 45 centimeters wide and 18 meters long. Crawling through this crack was a rite of passage separating casual explorers from true enthusiasts. 19 members decided to take up the challenge, among them Pierre, 14 years old, who was experiencing his first underground adventure. When his turn came, he plunged into the tunnel. The narrowness exceeded his worst nightmares. 2.5 meters from the exit, disaster struck. Pierre's knee slipped into a crack in the rocky ground. He thought he could free himself easily, but his knee was trapped, stuck as if in a vice. Panic seized him. He pulled and twisted, but nothing worked. Worse, his movements made his situation worse. "Help!" he shouted, but the group had continued on, unaware of the drama unfolding behind them. When they tried to return, they discovered the horrible reality. Pierre was completely blocking the passage. 19 people were trapped, hostages of his stuck knee. Rescue attempts failed. Every effort brought screams from Pierre. Time was running out, and hypothermia was setting in. The youngest were breaking down, while the adults tried to keep up morale. When help arrived, it was already late.
The narrowness of the cannon made any direct intervention impossible.
The hours passed, and Pierre began to hallucinate, believing that a snake was biting him. At around 8:30 p.m., after 7 hours of anguish, the rescuers had an idea. They passed a thermos of soapy water to lubricate the knee. With a rope tied to his ankle and coordinated efforts, the miracle happened. The knee was freed. One by one, everyone was able to climb out of this tunnel of hell. Pierre suffered from fractures and hypothermia, but he was alive, as were the other 18 prisoners. These stories remind us that nature remains dangerous. Whether underground or underwater, a moment of inattention can turn an adventure into a tragedy. In these underground worlds, caution must always take precedence over daring.